Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time of the day it is that you're listening to this. My name is Yvette Wanzu, and welcome back to the Walking with Wanzu podcast. How are you? How have you been? Has life been kind to you? It's been treating you good? Tough times? I'm sending you love and hugs nonetheless. Welcome back to the podcast. Enjoy listening. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is a very special one. It's in loving memory of my uncle, Benjamin Abulo Dawa. Today marks 8 years since he passed on, and I was in the shower, which is where I get all my grand ideas. This is the spot where I've also cried the most and laughed the most. It's also the space where I love to reminisce on all the fond memories that I have. Now, I know for those of you who don't like showering, especially if it's cold where you are, you cannot relate. But I just want to urge you to try and just perhaps have a good relationship with water and long showers. It works magic, I promise. Anyway, I've been thinking a lot about how I can share with you guys about the experiences I've had with different men in my life who've assumed the father role in different phases of my life. And I thought I'd do today's episode not only in loving memory of my dear late uncle, but also to be able to just shout out and big up those people and appreciate them in my own little way. Now, if you're new to the podcast, this is a space where I love to share about my own personal experiences, some of the lessons, all the cringy ones, all the good ones, all the sad ones, all the ones that make us laugh and giggle and just want to die. Those are the lessons that I share on here. I hope you find this a safe space. I hope that you can relate to some of the experiences and lessons that I've had. And welcome, welcome. I've noticed that our audience is growing and a lot of people are joining us. A lot of people are giving me feedback, and I really, really do appreciate your feedback. Now, I'm going to start with the very first guy who had the very first man who had a huge impact in my life, and that is the late Benjamin Abulodawa. Benjamin Abulodawa is the husband to my mom's sister, so that is my maternal aunt. They were married for a while before they were separated. However, some of the key memories I have of him is that he was always very inclusive of me. Um, I remember some of the fondest memories I have was of him taking us because he used to work in the Air Force, right? I remember some of the memories that I have is he used to take us to the mess. Sometimes he would have us order food, and order drinks. Like we could have our soda, we could have our ginger ale, we could have our Fanta, all the chips and sausage that we wanted to have. And it was also just amazing to see um, the hierarchy and just the flow of how the Air Force works, right? So if you know anyone who's in the Army or who's in the Air Force, or basically just anyone who's in the forces, you know that discipline is it's such a key part of what the forces is. It's like it's the what is it? It's a basis of everything that is centered around the armed forces, right? So it was good just seeing him interact with his colleagues also on a professional and also on a personal level. One of the best memories I think I'll take away also with me of Uncle Ben, which is what I used to call him, is how he used to eat life with a big spoon. Now let me tell you, this man knew how to have a good time. If Sherehe every weekend was a person, it would look like him. If Tumapin, if Where's the Party At was a person, it would definitely look like him. But one thing that I really admired about him was the fact that he really knew how to manage his liquor. Like he knew that like there was a time and a place, right? However, it was always like if he always knew how to have a good time, he always did. And when he passed on, it was quite an unfortunate and an abrupt death. and we were all taken by surprise and really shocked. But I think some of it is, I think, as even as I look back, the one thing that I really feel consoles me about his death is the fact that he lived a really full life. He was an amazing golfer. He won so many tournaments. He was an amazing Sherehelite. And I also noticed that he was an amazing friend, because during his funeral, I saw so many people come out and show out and come through for us in so many different ways. I saw his boys, like men who you just see, like big men in the forces, breaking down and just being so saddened that they've lost a brother and they've lost a friend. And I also saw the importance of having friendships and building them and nurturing them, friendships that could potentially lead even after retirement, right? Like lifelong friendships. I saw the value in that. And that's something that I'll always treasure and take with me, even as I think about him. Perhaps one more thing that I could share about him is how he always had this unique way of teaching people things. I remember during his funeral, one of my cousins was giving the eulogy about her dad. And she was saying that he was always those people for, you want to learn to swim? Okay, cool. Let's go swimming. And he'll put you in the water. He's like, Aya, this is how you do it. Okay, now you do it. Swim. He's like, you want to learn how to drive? This is the brake. This is the clutch. This is where you put your foot. This is how you release it a bit. This is what you do. This is the pedal. This is the steering wheel. Do your thing. You drive. Drive, you go. It's just the way he was always, he was always so open and so giving and so allowing of people even to just make mistakes and explore. And that's one thing that I'll really remember him for and treasure his memory. Um, and so the next guy, let's talk about the next one. The next one is someone called Sixtus Kennedy Otieno. Now, Sixtus Kennedy Otieno is my maternal uncle, right? That's my mother's brother. He's amazing, guys. If there was if there I remember people say behind every bald man there's a spoiled daughter. I feel like that was him for me. He really stood in the gap, guys. I don't remember ever a time when I was hanging out with him and his family and felt like, oh man, where am I going to get reassurance? Where am I going to feel accepted? Where am I going to feel loved? He always had this very special way about him that made me feel special, that made me feel recognized, and that made me feel acknowledged and taken care of. I remember numerous times when he used to come home over the weekends, even when my mom was working, and he would take me together with his two kids out, and he would buy us ice cream. He was that cool uncle who always got us steers. Guys, you remember steers? Those days for steers, he'd get us Nando's ice cream, some pizza during the days. I mean, I know, at least I know Pizza Inn and Chicken Inn is still there. But it was such, like, it makes for such fond childhood memories. I remember there was a day he took me to go spend some time with him over the weekend and his family. And we had so much ice cream that by the time I was going back home, but like by the time we are all driving back home in the evening, I had an asthma attack. That's how much fun we used to have. And if you know one thing about asthmatic children is you're excited, you get an asthmatic attack. You're upset, you get an asthmatic attack. Any trigger. Our asthma is always just so disrespectful. It's always just trying to look for every excuse to just show up and show out. Anyway, I digress. So one of the things that I remember, some of the very fond memories I have of him as a child is how he used to give me money, right? So he was always that cool uncle who would, if you've gone to visit him and he's driving you back home, he'll give you like 200 shillings, he'll give you like even 500 bob, he'll give you 100 bob. It was always a good time and good vibes with him, and I really appreciated that. One thing I also noticed about him was his brilliance. Like, he's a really brilliant mind, very eloquent, very well spoken, very articulate, and he was always very disciplined. I remember as a child seeing him work out, so he was always that cool, strong uncle who, when he would come home from work, I remember me and my cousin called Lorna, because we were the children, the babies of the family for quite a while. So we would always enjoy running up to him when he comes from work, and he would pick us up and toss us up in the air and toss us up in the air, and the giggles and the laughter, and just feeling like, oh man, this is where it's at. That's a very fond memory for me as a child. And so I just want to pause and appreciate him, because I know that he plays a huge role for me getting to where I am now in life. Um, Another person I want to shout out, and this this might be a bit unusual, but it's my granddad. So that's my mom's dad, right? Um, I think as a family, we've all had our fair share of drama and disappointment with him. But one thing that we will never take away from him is how strong and how his presence was always really felt, right? My granddad was amazing. Back in the day where people didn't think school was important and never took it seriously, he went to school, he got his education, he was employed in the prison system, and he just managed to make a life for himself. I know he was very well spoken, very well dressed, comfortable, which is not something that you can say for a lot of people, but he really worked his way to the top. Of course, in his prime, he went and got himself a very beautiful Kamba woman who was my grandmother, and together they had four children, my mom being the last born. And it was just amazing. And when I think of my granddad, I think of brilliance. I think of tenacity. I think of grit. I think of someone who, honestly, I don't know about you, but I really feel like my granddad used to feel like he was the shit. Like if confidence was a person. And I know we say a lot of things about Luo men, but one of the many things Agustino Odhiambo Orodi Nyamlori was a confident man. He knew what he had to offer. And even when he was feeling some type of way, you could never catch on, because he always made you know that he is and always will be the shit, right? Anyway, so I don't know about you, but growing up, I've just had God bring different older men in my season to always come in and step in the gap and do amazing things for me and just come through for me in different ways. When I finished high school, I was in a voluntary program where I was teaching for a while in primary school. And I remember on my very first day at work, when I was in the staff room, this teacher who was looking like, I mean, he was in his, I want to say his 50s, so he looked like a more of a senior teacher, right? Came into the staff room, which is where all the teachers normally stay and do most of their admin work and like book work and prepare for lessons. And I remember him just looking at me and saying, "Oh, my daughter, you're here. What's your name? Where are you from? What will you be teaching? How can we support you?" And I really felt protected. I felt seen. I felt heard. And he was always such a pillar of inspiration and insights and great knowledge, and I really really appreciated that. And so as I try and pay homage and acknowledge all the many men that I have had in my life, I never want to take away from the fact that we are all human beings and we all make mistakes. However, sometimes it's not what people do, it's how they make you feel. And most of these people made me feel heard, they made me feel appreciated, they supported me in one way or another in my journey. And there are so many. I feel like if I was to mention all of them, we would be on this podcast, we will be on it for a while, right? And so I just want to pose a challenge to you and encourage you to look around you, because we're in a very woke kind of phase in humanity right now. Okay, so we are trying to heal, we are trying to identify what our traumas are, we are generally just trying to be better human beings. And sometimes when we look back on our trauma and our past experiences, it can really take away from the good things that we have experienced. And being a child raised by a single mom and being a single mom myself, perhaps the narrative that we push forward of the men in our lives might not be the best, right? But let's not push that narrative so much that we are oblivious of the good that comes from the men that are around us, and the role that they play, and the good things that they do, and the good memories and the good values that they instill in us. I think as we grow older, we all learn to extend a special kind of grace, because Perhaps those things that we saw our parents struggle with, or people older than us struggle with, that we never understood and judged them for, now we are experiencing them ourselves. And so I just wanted to dedicate this episode to all the men out there, all the young men, all the young boys, those who are blossoming, those who are in their prime, those who are just getting into their prime, and just tell you that we love you, we see you, and we appreciate you. And when we can't make these babies without you, and we just want to say that we see you, and you're loved and you're appreciated. And I also just want to send a special shout out to all the men who are pulling their weight, doing what they need to do, even in this harsh and tough economy, even in this Nairobi where dating is just the absolute ghetto, and people are constantly getting character development after character development. Now, I know the ladies are going to come here and say that character development is only for the girls, but men are also having their fair share of heartache and just having a hard time, okay? Because even us, we're trying to pay them back for all the hurt that we've been through. But let's just pause and celebrate and acknowledge that there's some good men that are in our lives and that are doing an amazing job. And even the ones who are struggling in one way or another, let's not be oblivious of the good that comes, even as they try to figure out the bad side that they have. We all have a dark side. We all have those things that we do that we're not proud of. But that doesn't take away that from the fact that the essence of who we truly are is just a human being trying to be seen, to be heard, and do the best that they can with what they have. So here's a little challenge. I'd like to pause as I bring this episode to an end. I would like for you today to reach out to one of the men in your life, those who've held a key role in one way or another, supporting you in your upbringing or even in the current stage that you are right now. Please shoot them a text, visit them, have some tea. I don't know, like write them a note, send them a text message, call them and tell them how much you appreciate them. Let's build a culture where we give people their flowers while they can still smell them and while they can still appreciate them and see that we truly appreciate them. It takes very little to just pause, even however busy life gets, and appreciate those around you and appreciate what they have done for you. Anywho, I could go on and on and on. And even just listening to this and trying to flip the script and look at it from a positive angle is making me feel so warm and fuzzy inside. So I don't know about you, and I know this episode can be triggering to those of you who've lost your fathers and your father figures, and those fathers who are even trying to just figure life out and are feeling triggered by all the things that I have mentioned. I want you to know that you're seen and you're heard, and I feel your pain. And it's what we go through. It's our own choice for us to learn from it and for it to make us better and stronger, right? So your pain and your reservations and how you feel is definitely not overlooked, and I feel you and I empathize, and I'm sending you love and hugs. Thank you for listening to this episode. I look forward to chatting with you on the next one. Find me on Instagram at Yvette1Zoo. Find me on Facebook as well at Yvette1Zoo. Do people still do Facebook? Okay, regardless, I'm still there. Shoot me an email. Tell me some of the people in your life, some of the men in your life that have played such a pivotal role and that you're grateful for. I would love to hear from you at tewanzu@gmail.com. Have an amazing, amazing time. Until we meet again, sending you love and light and all the good vibes. Bye bye.